Hello students, so we will move on to the next part of module 6, that is welding, and we have already seen the classification of welding process, namely the basic two classification being arc welding and gas welding, and then we have the solid state welding and other allied processes, and also certain chemical process or welding process using chemical reactions like thermite welding. So here we can see more in detail about the gas welding and arc welding. So let's have a recap of the previous session, and so that we can easily continue on to this session. We will have a detailed discussion on the oxy-fuel gas welding process, namely air acetylene, oxy-acetylene and oxy-hydrogen welding. Also there is pressure gas welding. We will be seeing more of oxy-acetylene welding, because air acetylene welding is same as that of oxy-acetylene welding. Only difference is that here we had oxygen in stored cylinders, where in air acetylene welding we can take air from the atmosphere using a compressor and then use it for the welding process. And we will also see arc welding process and its equipments in this session, and later in another session we will see more in detail about carbon arc welding, shielded metal arc welding, submerged arc welding, TIG and MIG. So these are all the welding process that we will be seeing in the sessions coming up. So in today's session we will be seeing about gas welding, that is namely oxy-acetylene welding, which we will be seeing in detail, then the gas welding equipments, and then we will move on to the arc welding and arc welding equipment. So let's start off with gas welding process. So gas welding process is a fusion welding process which joins metal using the heat of combustion of oxygen or air and fuel gas. That is, the fuel can be acetylene, hydrogen, propane or butane or any other combustible gases, and then we mix the fuel and air or oxygen in air, and then we ignite it, and that is why it is called as a gas welding process. The intense heat of the flame thus produced melts and fuses together edges of the parts to be welded, and generally with the addition of a filler metal. So we basically use welding process by using a filler metal, and in there are cases where we can go for situations without the filler, or welding process without the filler metal, like we had seen in the previous session. And the fuel gas generally employed is acetylene. That is why we will be going in detail about oxy-acetylene gas welding. However, the gases other than acetylene can also be used, though with lower flame temperature. And then oxy-acetylene flame is most versatile and hottest of all flames produced by the combination of oxygen and other fuel gases. So this is the reason why we will use oxy-acetylene welding over the other gas welding techniques, which employs either air acetylene or hydrogen air welding. Then we have the LPG based welding. We might have seen in our neighborhood people using LPG gas cylinders instead of the acetylene cylinders for welding, and such processes are deemed to be less safe when compared to the oxy-acetylene welding. And those are welding or these gases can also be used for brazing and also for the gas welding. This is a experimental apparatus of the gas welding. Here you can see the welding torch tip. Then this is the flame behavior, where you can see the hottest part, that is the inner cone, and the outer periphery, which creates the heat for fusion. Then we have the welding rod, which is usually the filler metal. Then the direction of welding will be across the base metal. Now moving on, we will go in detail about oxy-acetylene gas welding. So in this process, acetylene is mixed with oxygen in correct proportions in the welding torch and ignited. So it is a pre-mixed gas oxygen combination that we ignite. Then the flame resulting at the tip of the torch is sufficiently hot to melt and join the parent metal. So depending on the temperature you can vary the application of this gas welding, or later it can be, if the temperature is so high, then it can be called as gas cutting. Then the oxyacetylene flame reaches a temperature of about 3300 degrees Celsius and thus can melt most of the ferrous and non-ferrous metals in common use. And a filler metal rod or welding rod is generally added to the molten metal pool to build up the seam slightly for greater strength. So like I said, we have these different applications of gas welding where we can use different combinations of oxygen and acetylene, and depending on the ratio of the fuel and oxygen, we have different types of flames, and they are like in oxyacetylene welding, flame being the most important means to control the weld or the joint and the process. So that behavior of the flame and the temperature of the flame is an important factor which determines what kind of welding or weld design can be developed. And the correct type of flame is essential for the production of satisfactory weld. And you need to select the type of flame based on your base metal, based on your weld size, and many other parameters. So the flame must be of proper size, shape and condition in order to operate with maximum efficiency. So the shape of the flame, what is like you may think, what is the necessity in maintaining proper size and shape and condition of the flame? Because you might have seen things burn. When the flame is sharp, you can see like pinpoint the welding process to the exact seam, whereas if the flame is blunt, say for example it is spread over a large area, the heat affected zones will be more. That may result in the variation of properties of the base metal. So these are all very small factors but very significant factors which determines the quality of a weld seam. So now let's see what are the different types of flames based on all these the ratio of oxygen and fuel. So here are the three different types of oxyacetylene flames, namely neutral welding flame, where the acetylene and oxygen are in equal proportion. So here you can see the fuel and oxygen are in equal proportions, or nearly to the equal proportion, because in the initial situation we need to have more fuel content to ignite the flame or ignite the mixture. Then we have the carburizing welding flame, or it is also termed as a reducing flame depending on its behavior. And in that case we have excess of acetylene, like the term says, more fuel. Then we have the oxidizing welding flame with an excess of oxygen. So here you can see the three different flame structures or flame compositions, whereas in neutral flame you have an inner cone and an outer envelope. So it is very easily identifiable and it is significant. Then we have the carburizing flame, which can be easily identified by the acetylene feather within the outer envelope near to the inner cone. And finally we have the oxidizing flame, which usually burns with a roar with an excess of oxygen. The inner cone will be smaller compared to the outer envelope. We will have a detailed discussion on the three different types of flames. So like we said, there are three different types of flame: neutral flame, carburizing flame and oxidizing flame. So here in oxyacetylene flame welding, we said about the temperature ranging up to 3300 degrees Celsius. But what exactly is that temperature having significance? So that depends on the welding material. So in neutral flame, the temperature goes up to 3260 degrees Celsius and the flame can be identified by its inner cone and outer envelope, and it is used for welding mild steel, stainless steel, cast iron, copper and aluminum, and certain alloys of copper and aluminum. So it has range between ferrous as well as non-ferrous metals. Now moving on to the carburizing flame, we have as an acetylene feather near to the inner cone, and then we have the outer envelope, and this kind of flame produces a maximum of 3038 degrees Celsius temperature, and can be used for welding materials like lead, high carbon steel and non-ferrous steel. So the carburizing flame, or it can be called as reducing flame. Why it is called a carburizing flame? It is because it carburizes the material. Like we had studied in our first module, carburizing is a technique of heat treatment or surface treatment. So if you use it for medium carbon steel, it tends to form a carburized surface or a hardened surface of surface material. There is a heat treatment happening on the weld affected area, and you will have harder carburized, more brittle surface when compared to the base metal. So that is what is a carburizing flame. Whereas in when it is called a reducing flame, so in materials like lead or a high carbon steel or a non-ferrous material, there you won't have the carburizing effect. So in such situations, the flame or the excess fuel takes away the oxidizing element or oxygen content out of the welding heat affected zone, thereby providing a reducing environment. That is why it is called as carburizing flame as well as reducing flame. And then thirdly, we have the oxidizing flame. Like I said, it is the wildest fire in these three categories, and it has a temperature of 3482 degrees Celsius and above. So it ignites and produces a roaring flame, and is not not suitable for welding. So we don't find many people suggesting this neutral oxidizing flame for welding, but it can be used in cases where we go for welding copper based metals, zinc based metals, then ferrous metals such as manganese steel, and also certain degrees of cast iron. And the drawback with oxidizing flame is that it provides an oxidizing environment. You are providing more oxygen, and at high temperature steel tends to form, or be it steel or any other material, tends to form brittle oxides. That is not suitable for a weld. When you join two materials, you don't want it to break apart, and oxides are always causing this brittleness of the weld, and thereby you are not having a very strong or a good joint. That is the drawback with oxidizing flame. So now let's move on to gas welding equipment. So we are now familiar with the different types of flame and why gas welding is used. So we need to know what are the different equipments that is necessary for gas welding process. And since we are discussing oxygen or oxyacetylene gas welding, we will go in detail about the equipments or parts for components for that process. Namely, we can see the two cylinders being acetylene the fuel and oxygen in the two cylinders. Then we have the regulators for both the cylinders. We have the adjusting screws, the hoses for each. Then we have the pressure gauges. There are two different types of pressure gauges for the cylinders. One is to measure the cylinder pressure or the stored pressure, whereas the other one is to measure the outlet pressure, the reduced pressure at which the gas is being ejected out of the cylinder. Then we have the valve wrench, which is used to open the valve, or it can be a valve head. Then the cylinder cap, fusible plugs in case of any overpressuring or high pressure situations where the cylinder is exposed to high temperature. Then the fusible plugs are or gets fused, thereby releasing the pressure stored inside the cylinder. And similar is the case with oxygen cylinder as well. We have the oxygen hose, the oxygen regulator, the two pressure gauges, the cap, the valves, and then the hand wheel for oxygen cylinder, and a bursting disc for the pressure to escape. Then we have the welding torch, and welding torch again has two valves, one being the acetylene valve and another one being the oxygen valve, and finally the torch tip where you have the flame coming out. Okay, so these are the components of, or the equipments of gas welding. You need to learn these equipments and the figure in detail. So let us now have a detailed discussion on these equipments. So once again, having a recap: the gas and oxygen cylinders, the gas pressure regulators, gas hoses, then the welding torch. There are two different types of welding torch available, one being the positive pressure, also known as medium or equal pressure, which is very common, or which is the most common type of welding torch available in the market. Then you have the low pressure or injector type, very rarely used because we always have high pressure gases stored inside the cylinder. And finally the torch tip. So here you can see the torch tip or the welding torch. This is a positive pressure welding torch, and you can see the acetylene here and oxygen which enter the welding torch. And we have the two different valves, one needle valve for the C2H2 or acetylene, another needle valve for oxygen, and then they are mixed depending on your type of flame in the required ratio inside the mixing chamber, and finally comes out as a premixed gas mixture, and then we ignite it using a flint lighter, or usually it is a spark lighter which is used for gas welding. So initially we will have the igniting mixture ratio, and then according to our base material we will decide on which type of flame we need to use. So the gas cylinder usually is being oxygen in black color, whereas maroon color for acetylene cylinders. And acetylene is usually stored in an acetone based absorptive material. Acetone has a property of keeping this acetylene absorbed. So since acetylene does not stay well in the gaseous form inside the cylinder, we absorb that acetylene in the form using acetone based absorptive material. And once the pressure drops, acetone spontaneously releases acetylene, and these gases are stored at generally 6 to 7 meter cube sized cylinders. And oxygen cylinder is usually 40 liters of capacity and stored at 154 kilogram force per centimeter square pressure at 21 degrees Celsius. And considering the safety aspects of these cylinders, we have fusible plugs to release the pressure in case of accidents. And accidents usually mean the temperature rise, or there may be situations where these cylinders are exposed to high temperature, and in such cases we cannot always regulate the pressure, and for releasing the excess pressure we have the fusible plugs. And then moving on to the gas pressure regulators, we have two different regulators like I mentioned earlier. One to measure or to show the pressure of our gas cylinder, and there also we have the regulator. And then another one to detect the pressure of the outgoing gases, and that will be having a low pressure compared to the cylinder stored pressure. And these two, apart from these two regulators, we have the valves inside our welding torch and also on our cylinders. Then moving on to the gas hoses or hose pipes, it is usually made of reinforced rubber, and we have color codes for the gas hoses as well, and that is green for oxygen, red for acetylene, and black for all the other combustible gases which can be used for welding or gas welding. Then considering the welding torch, like I said, positive pressure is the commonly available welding torch, and we need to ensure that these welding torch has a spark arrestor and a burn back arrestor, because we don't want the flame to propagate into our cylinder through the welding torch. And finally, the torch tip, depending on our required shape and size of the flame, we can vary the torch tip. So these are all the equipments used for gas welding or oxyacetylene welding. So now let's see the next common welding process, namely arc welding. So arc welding, we have many different types of arc welding, but the most common arc welding that we know is shielded metal arc welding, or it is simply called the common arc welding. And arc welding is a process in which an electric arc between an electrode and a workpiece, or between two electrodes, is utilized to weld base metals onto each other. Or you can either use consumable electrode technique or a non-consumable electrode technique. Again, you can either use a filler metal or without a filler metal. So most of these processes use some shielding gas, while others employ coatings or fluxes to prevent the weld pool from surrounding atmosphere. You may be familiar with your household or the common welding arc welding process, where we have a coated electrode. And what is the coating? That coating is a flux, and flux when melts forms a shielding gas around the weld pool, and thereby shielding it from oxidation, and then later forms a slag coating during the cooling and solidification. So that is the experimental arrangement or your equipment arrangement. Like you can see the welding machine, usually a generator or a transformer. Then we have the connecting cables, one going into the earthing and another one going into the electrode holder. Then we have the electrode. Here you can see a consumable type of electrode which is a coated one, and then forms the weld bead over the workpiece. We will have detailed discussion on different forms of arc welding in a later session. Now let's see the equipment, arc welding equipment and the process setup. So here you can see a welder using an electrode gun or an electrode holder to perform the arc welding operation. So we have the welding unit placed here. So it is connected through from the power. Then we have the earthing which is given onto the weld table, and another positive going into the electrode holder, and through the electrode holder it goes into the electrode and then into the workpiece, and the circuit is completed. So it is the distance between the electrode and the workpiece which forms the electric arc, and thereby providing the heat as a result of jump of electrons from positive to negative terminal. And the arc welding equipment are arc welding power source, welding cables, electrode holder, welding electrodes. So welding electrodes can be consumable electrodes, and again consumable electrodes can be bare electrodes or coated electrodes. Then we have the non-consumable electrodes, namely carbon or graphite electrodes, and also tungsten electrodes. So the power source or the arc welding power source can be DC or AC, and DC the direct current is obtained from generators, whereas AC is obtained from transformers. We find the portable welding units usually of DC type, whereas the larger units being AC or from the transformer type, which uses a step down transformer to bring down the voltage. And there are different factors influencing the selection of power source, one being the type of electrodes and metal to be welded, then the available source. You need to be make sure that you have facility for the AC or DC, whichever is possible. DC usually is a smaller unit when compared to the AC power source. Then we have the required output. For AC we get more output compared to the DC. Then the duty cycle or the repeated load that your power source must take. Then the efficiency, cost, space, and also versatility, how flexible and how easy it is to work with for a welder. Then we have the welding cables, which is usually made of insulated copper or aluminum. You need to make sure that the welder does not get electrocuted from the welding cable, so it should be secure, it should be positively insulated, and should make sure that the welder is not to any harm by using those welding equipments. Then we have the electrode holder. Usually it is or its size depends on the amperage output which is used for the welding electrodes or for the welding process. It ranges between 150 to 500 amps. Then we have the welding electrodes, mainly the two consumable electrode and the non-consumable electrode. In consumable electrode we have the bare electrodes and the coated electrodes. Bare electrode merely means that there will be metal, whereas the coated electrodes will have a flux coating which produces the reducing gas or the shielding gas, and also the slag formation is initiated by this flux coating, whereas in bare electrodes we need to provide the shielding gas separately, and there won't be any slag formed due to the absence of flux. Whereas non-consumable electrodes usually is either carbon or graphite electrodes. It can be pure carbon or coated carbon electrodes, and also tungsten electrodes. Again, there is pure tungsten electrode and also tungsten alloy electrodes. Depending on your application and economy, these equipments can vary, and you need to select the process and your equipment correctly to your weld requirement. So these are the topics for this session. Thank you.